Right, good morning everybody to the first drama Teach Meet. Really great to have you all here. Obviously this is the first one, so this is a little warm up to hopefully some more events of this later in the year, and possibly physical or maybe virtual again. But thank you all for joining us on a Saturday morning.
This later in the year,
going to be
possibly physical.
I hope it's all going to be jam-packed with things that are going to be really useful for you to use with your students. And certainly going to be things that are going to maybe refresh your own subject knowledge or perk your curiosity into future planning or delivery. So yeah, just not going to say too much because we have only got a couple of hours and we've got a lot of great guests today. I've got 5 guests, in fact, all who've got, like myself, 15 to 20 years drama teaching experience or directing experience. So that's a really good amount of experience to be sharing today, and obviously we're all going to be there to help anyone if they need anything. So please use the chat function, let us know, hashtag TMDramaIcons on the Twitter, and get involved with your comments that way. We'll also be running a selfie competition, so if you can take a quick little selfie with your phone of yourself taking part in today's event, then you can post that on the Twitter, TMDramaIcons again. And then what I will be doing is I will be looking through those later, and the ones that I really love, my favorite ones, I will be sending out some rewards to. So there are a few packets of drama rewards stickers, which are going to be going out to you if we pick you, provided by We Love Stationery, of course. And there is also the brilliant book by Matthew Nichols about drama teaching, which obviously came out in the last year, and that will be on offer to the best selfie of the day. I also would like to know your, please put in the chat what exam board you do, because I would like to get a feel for today how many people do a certain exam board, because I think it'd be interesting to see if lots of us do one or the other, because that might also inform future webinars that we do or training, etc. So let us know through the chat which board you use. Anything else I've forgotten? No, I don't think so. So yeah, this is going to be a really good day, and I'm really grateful to those people that are here live. Of course, please also make sure that if after the event you want to go back and watch it again or look at any of the resources, then you can obviously go to our big marker link, which has been sent around on the Twitter, and I'll send again at the end when this finishes, and all the stuff will be there, the recording, the resources, anything that you've seen today. So that's how we keep it going. But without further ado, I'm going to be just passing over to our first advert before, oh, lovely, thank you, Ryan, for that. I'm going to be passing over to our first ad from Pupil Progress, and then we'll be having our first guest. So this is our first advert.
Good morning, how are we all doing? You okay? Great. Brett here from Pupil Progress. I thought I'd just come on for a very brief couple of minutes. Some of you might know what we do. We are essentially a tracking and monitoring tool. I was a former PE teacher, former assistant principal, was actually line management of drama as well. So real love for the practical subjects. Before I just quickly show you a little bit about what the system does, we purely focus on being able to support you as teachers. We know the information you need. We know the information you need to present in terms of how students are progressing, and our system helps you do that. So we're not reinventing the wheel, and we're certainly not trying to come up with new elaborate ways of doing something, you know, with more change than is actually necessary or required. I'm just going to share screen now. There will be a video in the Teach Me icon presentation. I'm just going to see if that's actually sharing. Bear with me a second. Right, this one should be showing the right screen. Perfect, there we go. It's always the way when you're live with something. So essentially what we wanted to let you know, we've got tracking and monitoring for every single qualification that you're delivering, either a GCSE or a BTEC or an A-level. Everything calculates the grade exactly as the exam board does. The whole purpose of this is so that you can focus on a thing that you got into teaching for, which is to actually teach and plan. It allows you to report. It allows you to actually show students what grades they're working at and why. And it allows you to also communicate that with parents with really, really specific bespoke reporting, which allows you to actually communicate exactly what grade your students are working at and why. Forgive the Manchester United logo. We've actually been doing some work with Manchester United to support their actual provision. So I need to change that logo back at some point. But we also run qualifications for BTECs, for VCerts. This is the level 2 national for level 3 national for drama and performing arts. If you are interested in having a look at our software, you can trial our software for completely free. If you go to pupilprogress.com, in the top right hand corner, you'll see an icon that says create your account. You can use it at no cost all the way up until the 31st of August, or you can select a 4-week trial at a point that's convenient for you. We also have some blogs at the bottom that's worth you checking out because they're just really interesting teaching content. So I just wanted to take the time to introduce myself personally. We have a support team live to help anyone that wants to trial it. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Again, super excited to be involved with such a important initiative. Free CPD for teachers. What could be better?
Absolutely,
Thanks,
Brett.
guys.
Yeah,
no worries.
Brett. Okay, so thanks to Brett there for obviously without our sponsors, we couldn't really do any of this for free. So we definitely really appreciate their support. So our first guest today is going to be, well, actually got a bit of a double bubble here. So it's buy one, get one free. We've got Lucy Bellingham, who's the founder of We Teach Drama, joining us. And we also have a lighting designer called Josh Tomlin. Here's Josh as well. And they are both going to speak to us a bit about lighting design, because that is Josh's profession, and Lucy's going to link that together with a bit how we would use some of these ideas with our students. So I'm going to pass straight over to these guys who are the experts and see what they've got to say. Thank you, guys. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank
morning.
you, Seb. We're involved in the very first Drama Teach Meet, Josh. This is fantastic. And I just want to say thank you so much to Seb and the team for organising today. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Thrilled to be the very first guest. It's amazing. So lots of you will probably already know Josh Tomlin. He's already worked with We Teach Drama a lot. You will have seen him in Think Like a Designer, Think Like a Lighting Designer. He's done masterclasses for us. And he has this amazing experience where he's professional. You can see him getting a bit embarrassed now. He's a professional, but he's also got all this incredible teaching experience as well. So he has these amazing two hats and is able to really think about how we teach lighting design to students at all levels. So this is something, morning, Josh, by the way.
Morning, mate. How you doing?
Good. You're just quickly, you're fresh off a tour, is that right? I just want to give everybody hope that there is professional work starting to happen, and you've been doing this amazing tour that you're just recovering from, I think, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So yeah, I just finished a tour of 3 contemporary dance works for Emergence Dance Company. And we ended up with a week's residency live streaming from theatre in Salford last week, which was brilliant and was completely fantastic. The first big project I've done in since the beginning of the pandemic. So yeah, things
amazing.
Are on the way up, I think.
Yeah, it sounds quite an emotional experience, the whole thing, to come back to it and actually be involved in live theatre. We're so looking forward to our students seeing live theatre again, whether it's dance or drama. So today we're going to talk about research tools. Now, I think, Josh, and I hope you agree with this, that there's sort of a real disconnect, I think, for students, because they have to look at a script and they have to analyze it, whether it's a set text or whether they've got their stimulus material for their devised piece. And then they have to produce this lighting design. And there's all of the process in between that we have to they almost leap to immediately. But obviously for professional designers like yourself, you have this whole process of research, which is really in depth. So what I wanted to do today was try and sort of take some of those little tools that you use that are so valuable to you, that actually we could then look at how we use them with students, so that when they're developing their portfolios and their mood boards and developing their ideas, it isn't just these ideas just aren't plucked out of thin air. They come from a place of actually visually researching, looking for inspiration, working through those ideas, which I suppose for you is a huge part of your process.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's absolutely right for all lighting designers, whether you're a student or whether you're a professional, is that you're absolutely right. The ideas don't come from nowhere. They come from a process of research and thinking about it. And lighting design can be quite a hard thing to teach and to understand, because in many cases it is quite abstract, but there absolutely are concrete research things you can do in order to generate those ideas and kind of make sure that your lighting design is what you want it to be and is appropriate to the piece that you're working on.
Brilliant. Now we're going to start launching into them, because we've got our little slot. We're going to try and pack out as much stuff as we can. I have actually written a blog about this as well, which I'll tell you about at the end. So anything that you miss, you can also watch it on the replay. And also, hi Ryan, morning. Good to see you. And you can read the blog afterwards as well. So. Josh has amazing photography experience. Is it your photographs you're going to talk about first, Josh?
Yeah, sure. Shall I go straight into this? So let me just make sure this is working. There we go. So hopefully something has just come up there. Yeah, so as Lucy mentioned, I also work as a photographer as well as a lighting designer. And these two disciplines overlap quite a lot, especially in how I do research. So these are just some images that I have taken. And I think that it's kind of important to say that the process is that when I'm thinking about photography and lighting design research, I never go out and photograph something specific. So say I'm working on a show that's set in a factory, I'll never go out and photograph a factory specifically. But what I will do is I just go out and take a camera with me wherever I go, and I photograph whatever I find interesting. So these are just images that I've taken when I'm out and about in the city. So I find mixed lighting sources and lighting sources where you can see the lights themselves to be visually very interesting. So that's what it is that I photograph. And when I'm working on a design, I'll think to myself, well, do I have any visual research that kind of fits in with what it is that I'm working on? And these two images here, so this one is just a selfie that I in fact took when I was driving home from work one day, stuck in traffic. I'm lit by the brake lights of the car in front of me. And this image here of the girl in Chinatown smoking a cigarette. These last two images have informed a lighting design that I recently did for this contemporary dance double bill. So speaking to the choreographer, we both wanted a kind of a look of a city at night. So I really liked this red and yellow color scheme, the brake lights and the yellow lights of the shop fronts. So I took inspiration from those images that I took and turned it into an inspiration for the design. So if I just remind you that it was this image and this image that we were looking at, and taking that red and yellow color scheme, this is what the final piece ended up looking like. So that red and yellow side light that you can kind of see there was inspired directly by those two images. So I dunked into my folder and found what I thought would work, and there we have it.
Amazing. I absolutely love this idea of using photography. And I think when particularly with students, we often find that maybe the students who have done more art or more photography are the ones who are really drawn to the design elements and choosing those options. And I think it's sort of twofold, really. I think, Josh, what you mentioned about it, you have then those photographs to have that dialogue with the choreographer or the director, don't you? And that's a really important dialogue for them to have if they're working collaboratively and learn that collaborative process. But also for them to sort of build up this whole, as you say, if they can just take photos when they're out and about, or you could set them a time period, say within the next month, I want you to go out and just photograph things that interest you in terms of lighting. They then can build up this folder, if you like, or digital folder of what interests them. It's really super seeing those images and how and the influence of those. Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's absolutely right. I think it's much more about finding out what you're interested in as a designer, as a visual person, rather than specific research. So just really kind of learning more about yourself and your influences, and then taking that and applying it to the right situation.
I think as well, if they've got all of these photographs, and we're sort of envisaging probably lots of teachers watching, so thinking, oh, that would be a really great mini project to set them, to go away, right, we've got these few weeks, go away, photograph, and then they could bring the photographs in and present the ones that they are really interested in. And I think that also then what students struggle with lighting design is the vocabulary and actually talking and describing the lighting states. And by having those photographs as a really good starting point, they can start to use that vocabulary, start to, use the terminology that they need, really. So.
Yeah, 100%. And then, of course, the next step on from that is to look at those images that you've taken and to understand where the light is coming from in order to create that effect. So on this photograph of the girl here, obviously she's being lit by these yellow fluorescent lights above her, and you can see that just on the way the light falls on her face there. So then you can take that information and take it into your own lighting design, where you place the lanterns in the space to create that same effect.
Great. So I suppose from that, they would then do a little sketch, wouldn't they, of, the direction of the light, the colours they're going to use, and start to sort of develop those ideas. Lindsay's just asked a question, Josh. She says, does Josh have a bank of images that students can use, or a reference link? Now, I know you take your own photographs, but maybe if students were looking online, is there any way you could suggest they could look for amazing photos?
That's a good question. So basically, no, I don't have any good recommendations for. I think that the best way of doing the project is to take the photos yourself. I mean, everyone has I took those photos with a fairly cheap digital camera, and you can obviously use your phone or whatever. I think there's plenty of great photography out there, but I think that it's better just to do it yourself.
I think it is that process of them taking the photographs themselves, because it's about, as you say, them tuning into what they like visually and what they find interesting, isn't it? And it's that process which is actually quite important, I think, particularly for the older students as well, who are going to be developing lighting designs. Okay, super. So that's our first research tool, is using photography in a really creative way. So that's brilliant. What's your second tool, Josh?
So my second tool that I use is I do a lot of gallery research, and obviously this is better to do if you can actually go to the galleries yourself, but obviously that's not always possible at the moment. So there are lots of galleries that have put their collections online, and this is an incredibly good research tool. So I use it in basically two ways. The first is that if I'm working on lighting design where the piece is period set, so if it's in the 16th century or in the 1920s or whatever it would be, I will look at art from that period to try and figure out the types of color schemes that bring to mind that particular time period. So obviously in the 1600s, when things were lit by lamplight, there was lots of amber and pastel tones in artwork, and that can be quite a good use of inspiration for finding colors that bring to mind the memory of that time period. The other way in which I use gallery research is that obviously there are lots of pieces of art which have fantastic lighting within. Obviously, the Dutch masters, Rembrandt, Caravaggio, all of these artists, their use of light is extraordinary and incredibly useful for just getting inspiration, really. The four galleries that I tend to use the most in terms of online searching would be the National Portrait Gallery, the National Gallery of Scotland, and the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. All of them have a search facility. Some of them, the National Portrait Gallery, National Gallery of Scotland, are searchable by date, which is really, really interesting and really, really useful. The National Gallery also has a collection of masterpieces which are searchable by date. So again, super useful for getting either kind of period research or just inspiration research from looking at some of the best artists in the world.
Fantastic. Now, in the blog that I've written, which is on the We Teach Drama website, I've put all the links to the galleries which Josh is talking about. So you can go straight in and students can search in those galleries for particular time periods. That's brilliant, Josh. Thank you. I'm just aware that the time is ticking along. Maybe if we do the third one, and then we'll see how much time we've got left. So that's brilliant. So we've got galleries, we've got photography, and then are we going to look at Shot Deck?
Yeah, we're going to look at Shot Deck. So shotdeck.com is an online website. It's a website that has a subscription model, so you pay a relatively modest fee, it's about 35, 40 quid a year. And in it is a completely searchable database of stills from movies. And this is a fantastic source of inspiration because, as you can see from this screen capture I've done of the opening page, you can search by time period, by type of lighting, so top light, side light, backlight, and so forth. You can search by color, you can search by period. So again, brilliant for period research, but also brilliant for inspiration and also for showing students exactly what the effect of, for instance, a backlight would look like, what a side light looks like. So it's really good for inspiration and it's really good for teaching because you can absolutely show students visually the effect of different lighting angles and so forth. So I'll leave that there. It's good. Use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, Shot Deck has been an absolute game changer for me in terms of really looking at how to research like any sort of design, really. But it's absolutely fantastic. And as Josh said, it's not very expensive to sign up for it and give your students access to. So that's absolutely brilliant, Josh. I think we are. Yeah, thank you, Sharon. You're saying Shot Deck is amazing. I know that lots of teachers who we've already turned onto it already can see how valuable it is. Josh, I want to thank you. That's great. I think we haven't got a huge amount of time left, but I just want to say, please go to the We Teach Drama website to read the blog, and we've got all of the links and there's a whole blog about everything we've been talking about with the research tools today. So I hope that's given you some ideas for teaching lighting design.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you both indeed. Lucy, for obviously getting us to be aware of the stuff you're doing on your website in general with helping teachers develop in the workshops and the CPD, but also Josh for that individualized specific tools from a professional point of view. I think in 15 minutes you've given us 2 or 3 really good ones. I'd love to think that maybe later down the line we'll do a longer one of these. We can get you to come again maybe and do some more. Because I certainly think design is something that people need help with, and I love that Shot Deck. I think that's absolutely brilliant. I've never seen that before. So I saw Lindsay just post as well that actually there's such great images they can be used for devising, and again it could link to what the question was before about photographs, because you could actually take some photographs from Shot Deck as well. There's so many beautiful images on there, amazing images. So yeah, I totally agree. I think they're both good, and the idea of taking your own pictures and the way you got those reds and oranges from that, it sounds obvious, but I think just the things like the car lights, would you necessarily have thought of that if you'd not gone out there, and then it's influenced your design.
Exactly.
Really good, really lovely. So thanks both of you for coming. Like I say, I'll be in touch, and we may well get you to come on again and do a longer session when we get into a bit more nitty gritty next time. But have a lovely Saturday.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
It's great, Seb. Thanks for organising.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye.
No, you're welcome. Thank you. So yeah, fantastic opening speakers there, Lucy and Josh. I'm sure lots of you out there will have really appreciated those top tips. And again, get in touch on the Twitter, #TMDramaIcons, or let us know through the YouTube chat function if there's any of those kind of ideas you're going to use, or anything you'd like to know more about next time, or even other areas of design like sound or costume. Maybe you would like to have that on the next Drama Teach Me, because I need to know so we can get you guys what you need. Right, great. So going over to our sponsors, our second sponsors today, who are Wellbe, and they have got a little bit of information for us on what they do. And so I'll join you after this.
A third of new teachers leave within 5 years. School recruitment targets missed since 2012. UK teacher job satisfaction among the lowest globally, and stress and mental ill health is the #1 cause of long-term absence. And all this was before the impact, uncertainty, anxiety and added workload from COVID-19. There is a solution that will help you solve these problems and effectively tackle the causes of poor staff well-being. Introducing Wellbe. Wellbe follows an evidence-built process, which means you can easily assess the current well-being of your staff, know what to focus on for the biggest impact, track progress and capture ongoing staff feedback. As a result, your school will keep more of its staff who are happier and more engaged, improve student outcomes, and likely save £20,000 to over £100,000 annually. 12 months of Wellbe includes an online survey, detailed report with benchmarks and recommended actions, anonymous feedback tool, resources and ongoing remote support to simplify and speed up your journey and deliver the outcomes you need. All with a money-back guarantee. Schools we work with have found this transformational. To book your free demonstration or to find out more, get in touch today.
Great, thanks to our sponsors Wellbe there. Great, so our next speaker coming up in a moment is Emma Bramley. And if you don't know Emma is here now, and she is director of All Things Considered Theatre Company, which she started in 2013, but again has been involved in theatre directing for about 20 years. Good morning, Emma.
Morning.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
So I've given you a little bit of an intro there. I know you're having a look at some of your work. You mostly focus on like using more community settings and using verbatim theatre in your work. Is that correct?
Yeah, anything that is about creating intimacy and is about kind of, obviously all theatre is about the human experience, but anything that is about authenticity of stories and narratives, that's what we're kind of interested in, platforming kind of hidden stories and narratives.
Yeah.
As well.
Yes, I saw one of your shows was about male suicide. So would that be one where you would have taken genuine, obviously, stories from real people to do that?
Yeah. So there was Most Things Are Quiet. So it was part autobiographical, and we also used verbatim. So, for example, in one of the scenes, you sit down. It's a one-to-one performance at that moment, and you're playing Scrabble with somebody, and then he goes off to make a cup of tea, and the story comes through the radio. So you hear the verbatim testimony of a father that we spoke to through the radio. So, so we play around with forms and how you share it as well. And
that's brilliant. And whereabouts are you based again, Emma?
Liverpool.
In Liverpool. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, well, that's just a bit of background for anyone who doesn't know of your work. But you've got a nice little slot now, and hopefully you're going to give us some insight into how you use verbatim theatre in your directing. So over to you.
Thank you. Hopefully I'll keep on time is what you...
Don't worry.
I'll speak quickly. Okay. So as I'm going to rattle through this, guys. Okay. So why verbatim? For us as a theatre company, it's about human and meaningful connections. And like all theatre, it's about exploring what it means to be human. Why does it work with young people? For us, or for me, so I've just finished working in sixth form as well. It gives them the language, it gives them the text. Not all of them are writers, and writing is a craft. So it allows us to kind of look at form and spend our time thinking about how we're going to share this story and what that story is, rather than just the language and the dialogue. And it offers them sort of weighty and just a sort of emotive dialogue as well. Challenges with it is that it can be really dry and it can be really heavy. So I'm going to take you through a process that I take young people through when we're devising work with them. It's looking at divergent and convergent thinking. It's inquiry based, and it's something that we call story seeking. So before we start telling stories, we seek the stories. That's part of our processes. You've got to imagine that we are stood up. Everyone's got a big fat marker pen. Everyone's got lots of different colour paper or post-it notes. And we're all doing this in a big circle, and it's, we debate and we discuss. So imagine that as a premise. I'm going to take you through it. And what I'd love you to do is to just get that experience yourself, even though it'll be very quick, of kind of the ideas. So you'll need a pen and a piece of paper. I'm going to ask for the image just to be put on, if that's okay. It might pop up. So is it there? We've got an image. I'll keep talking while that's sorted. So I've chosen this as a starting point. I've chosen the stimulus. And this is a stimulus that I've used a lot of times. with young people. And what I would start with is process of inquiry, is placing this on the board, or it can be really interesting just to have the images just peppered around the space so that students sort of walk through different images of the same story, and that they're looking at those images and they're talking about them. And the first thing I ask them is, what do they see? Not what they know, but what they see. So just note down what you see and keep looking. And we'd spend quite a lot of time on this. The images would sit in the space for a lot of time while we open up that inquiry. And within this process of looking, what do we see? Do we see hope? Do we see fear? We see travel, anticipation. I see luggage. So already we're starting to formulate those props or those ideas or these moments for scenes. It opens it up and it offers the nuances. Okay, just take the image down for us. Thank you. So this is a story that I've chosen, and it is a story about child migrants that were sent to Canada and predominantly Australia in the late 1800s, and the last lot was sent in 1967. That's what I know. So this is me talking to your students now. What do you know about that story? So you might know nothing. You might know loads about Australia. You might know loads about the 60s. But what do you know? What prior knowledge are you coming in with about that subject? Because we might need to check that, and we might need to check that's right. So we've looked at the theme, what can we see? And now we're looking at, what do you know? What's the prior knowledge that exists in this room? Okay, next thing. And this is the one where I take a long time in the classroom setting. But again, we're on our feet. It's energized. It's up. It's thinking. It's about questions. It's about what do you not know, but to phrase them as questions, because once you phrase them as questions, it becomes inquiry based. What do you not know about that subject? And I want you just now just to spend just 3 things that you do not know. And it might be facts. It might be a question that you have about feelings or about processes. What do you not know? Because sometimes we think we know something and actually we don't. So this is a lovely opportunity with young people to go, well, actually, do you know that? Let's go and check. Because if we're dealing with verbatim, we're dealing with real people's stories, we need to make sure that ethically that we're telling that story correctly. And the questions are really, really important, because verbatim theatre for us is about asking questions, not giving statements, not lecturing. No one wants to go to the theatre and be lectured, but we're invited in. Questions you have. Brilliant. Some people are putting up their questions on the chat. I don't know why the young girl looks so unhappy. So again, we phrase that. Why is the young girl so unhappy? Is she unhappy? What is unhappiness? So from that, we're now digging down into what makes somebody happy. And we might have a discussion about that. But that core question is taken from this image, and already we're starting to explore. This group here, me and Seb, is about what happiness is. Whereas actually a group over here with the same subject might be looking at what is home and what does it mean to be at home. Okay. Then this is really important, and it's sort of linked into the last session that we've just had, which is about research actually, and how we support young people to go off and research. What we don't want them to do is to put into Google child migrants, because everyone's going to come up with the same thing. So we're opening up that lines of inquiry. We're opening up this idea about who is involved in this story. Who else is involved? So this is about perspectives, and this is about people. It's a beautiful image, isn't it? There's a lot in there. And also, I should say that the images, if I'm going to talk about photographs as well to make a link, is I use image work a lot. So we might do a session where we recreate those images and we think about what's in our case, or thought tracking, or what's in our pockets. I love what's in our pockets, because often what's in our pockets is really personal. Might be a little stone that we've kept, or a penny, or a note, or something like that. What's been slipped inside? Okay. Don't know why they have to leave. So let's think about people. What I'd like you to do now is list as many people you can think might be involved in this story. People who were there, people who might have been impacted. So I'll just give you a bit more information because we might have discovered that as we're going through. So these are children that have been placed in orphanages, but not everyone was an orphan as we understand it. Some people, their mothers might have had to work and they were coming back for them. And those children were sent across to Australia to help populate Australia with British white stock is a quote, but we'll look at that again later. So who else would have been involved in this story? Who was there? Who might have been impacted? Who has knowledge about this story? Who's involved? So really start to pull it out. Who else? Who else? And they might need, your students might need a little bits of pockets of information as well, which is why it's quite nice to have the image up and then just little tiny bits of starting points. The people there is really important because that will support, their parents. Lovely. Yeah, the children who organised it. Who was involved in that organisation? And and think as well, they were on the ship. They were on the ship for 6 months. So there's loads of people involved in that whole process. Where are their parents? It's beautifully emotive here because as a young person, they can identify with this. Yet what it also offers is a distancing framework. Really important with verbatim because it's so close to home. We have to work out that distancing framework. We have to protect our students whilst we're exploring this often quite challenging material. So finding a stimulus that allows them to have that connection, but also with that distance is really, really important. I think historical sort of stuff, plus I'm a massive history fan, is really, really useful. It offers a natural kind of distancing framework. And as sort of Bondian ideas, isn't it? It's a lens to see the world from the edge of the kitchen table. Brilliant. All of those different people, brilliant. So already in my Google search, I'm going parents of child migrants. I'm saying, who did they live with? And it's interesting when you look at the word migrants, that might bring up a whole other world of research because unfortunately this isn't a historical story, is it? We still have the traffic and the movement of children that are being moved across places. Next thing I would do, so that would take a bit of time, but that really opens it up. And it also gets them to think about perspectives and storytelling. So rather than just telling it from one person's perspective, actually what we could do is we could build all this other stuff in. And don't forget the pop culture at the time, okay? And the reason why I'm saying that, images, songs and adverts, the reason I'm saying that is because it offers texture. If we go back to that idea at the start about it can be quite dry. If you buy any plays that are verbatim, sometimes it's like, oh, how do they stage that without £1 million and thousands of projections? What am I going to do? So actually looking at the pop culture can offer texture, theatricality to those stories as well, as do different forms and genres of theatre as well. I'm always trying to sort of say to the students, how else can you perform this other than an interview scene, because that's very, very static. And often the adverts of the time or the songs of the time or the pop culture, the other art at the time offers us that sort of opportunity. And then what I would do at this point is I would stop and I would have all these different bits of paper, because this is how I work with lots and lots of different paper. We've got all these different fragments, because I think verbatim theatre is quite fragmented. Is we would look across at all of these and think, what is our story? Let's have a look at the themes that we're pulling out. Because as I said before, for some groups, I've done this, and it's home. They're fascinated in this idea of home and belonging and what that means and why it's so important. Whereas other groups, it might be about loss, or it might be about decisions that are made for you as a child about people when people are in authority. I mean, these are timeless kind of human qualities, aren't they? So we would look to see, well, what is your version of this story? What are you as theatre makers, is how I would address them at the time. As theatre makers, what is your story? And then we would go right back to the start and go, what sits at the heart of our piece? What are we asking the audience? And for some, as we just said, for some it is, what is home? What is home? And we would have that, and I would write that in big letters and stick it up. And we would talk about what it is to have a home. And already we're starting to get an idea, aren't we? Well, what is a home? A home is a table. Maybe that's part of the set. Maybe there's a scene where we're laying the table and we're doing this dialogue about the authorities giving the mandates and what they're going to do with these children whilst we're laying the kitchen table. Or actually, maybe our piece is about belonging. So it's actually about looking, because what we need to do is we can go into the audience and we can say, we want to talk about what belonging is with you, rather than we want to tell you this story and it's really sad, which I think a lot of verbatim work can kind of slip into sometimes. I'm aware I have 1 minute left, so I'm just going to stop there and just round up with, I hope that's been useful in terms of a structure of inquiry to open up the idea from that initial theme and that initial stimulus, but to bring it back to the idea that when we sit in the space with the audience, not only have we got this rich dialogue, but we've got texture, we've got theatricality, and really, really important, we're really analysing and exploring human qualities together. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you, Emma. That was so useful. Just if you want to pick out a few little points of it, certainly the idea of distancing, which is something that I know I did that on my PGCE, which is a long, long time ago, and something I've forgotten about a little bit. And it's such an important tool, isn't it? Especially if you want to explore current issues, but at the same time not do something that is affecting maybe, you know, kids in your class. So I think that was a really nice point you made. And also the fact that even if this is from, you use it maybe for verbatim, that isn't using those images just for devising in general is obviously, you know, obviously we probably all use them a lot, but the questions part I think is so great, because, you know, I would look like you picked up on my question. I would immediately just think, oh yeah, well, they're going to just talk about the kid in the middle. And it's, well, no, because what does that mean? How do I even know that? And the pockets idea, I think, is a lovely one. Because you're actually doing something practical rather than just the thing I will worry, you know, sometimes if people just get pictures, put them down, let's do a mind map on the pictures and then that's it. I don't think you get that practical side.
Get it up. How are they moving? Why are they walking? What is the energy of that move? What's inside the place? If I could feel in their pocket, what is in there? What is precious to them?
Where they're going to, where they come from. You know, I think it's great. So hopefully that has been definitely useful, just like Josh's one, with some little tips and tricks and ideas just to get people thinking, which is all really today's about. In this short time, I would have loved you to have a much bigger slot, Emma, because I'm sure there's loads more you could do and give us a real long workshop on it all. But yeah, great. So really good luck to your theatre. Are you back up? Have you had to stop doing your
No, we've got a piece in 3 weeks' time called Sleepover, which is an immersive experience for women over the age of 30 to explore what they thought they would become and what they've left behind of their teenage selves. So
wow. Very deep, very deep. And where is that? Is that in Liverpool?
That's in Liverpool, with the aid of Ice Ice Baby and MC Hammer as well. So there's some top tunes in there as well.
Right, well, good luck with that. And obviously, I'll definitely be following your work in more detail, certainly after today. So thanks for your time. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to sort of meet you.
No problem. Right, great. That was lovely. Emma Bramley there from All Things Considered Theatre Company. So look them up if you want to find out a bit more about what they do on the old Google. And there's lots of information you can find out about them from there and their shows. And if you're in the area, obviously maybe go and check them out. Great. So just before we have our next speaker, who is Karen, we've got another little snippet from our sponsors, and then we'll be with Karen Latto.
Wellbe is a systemised solution which helps improve staff well-being and build it into your school culture. You can see where you are now and plan where you want to be. Using the evidence-based survey, the Health and Safety Executives Indicator tool, you can see your staff members' scores in your online dashboard. This shares a full report including analysis, benchmarks and heat maps. Use our suggested priority actions, which means it's much easier and faster to take positive steps. Staff also share their comments, providing further insight into actions needed, and you're able to respond to them anonymously, creating greater engagement. Wellbe allows you to easily share your results with staff and governors using a PowerPoint presentation which you can easily download. You can book a results review call with a wellbeing expert and let us help you set the right goals and actions to achieve the outcomes you need. With Wellbe Voice, you can follow up on post-survey actions and track progress over the next 12 months. You can also use it for anything else, where staff anonymity will help. For example, with consultations or following a change. Send staff members a message, ask a question or seek feedback. It's as easy as sending an email. The one difference being, it is an anonymous conversation. You can invite all staff to take part or groups as little as 8. This means that you only need to invite relevant staff, such as those affected by the changes you've made. This might be teachers, support staff, middle leaders, teaching assistants, or any group of staff in your school. You choose the titles you use. Staff receive their invitation by email, click on the button to respond through a web page, only they see and are able to send you their feedback. You see this in your school dashboard, where you can read and choose to respond if you wish. You can set up multiple users across your leadership team to share workload and enable others to seek feedback from their team. It really is that easy. Our online user guides make sure Wellbe Survey and Voice are quick and easy to use.
Good, thank you to our sponsor there, to Wellbe. That was really helpful stuff. Right, so just before our next guest comes on, I'll just do a bit of a intro again. So many of you may have know Karen already. Here she is, Karen Latto from Open Drama. But that's obviously not all she does. Karen does lots and lots of things, don't you, Karen?
I do indeed. I have. I'm a teacher as well. I've got a new job for September. Very excited about that.
Oh, brilliant!
And I do freelance stuff as well.
Is that a new role, or what you've always done, just at a new place? Or
nope, new role. I've got a head of faculty post, which is very exciting over in Royston. So I'm joining the team there, and yeah, really looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, Karen, again, it's like all our guests today, there seems to be this magic number of sort of 15 to 20 years experience, which you all seem to have. But yeah, so Karen's been obviously around the block doing all this stuff for a long time, design assessments, working with exam boards, developing qualifications. But today she's going to talk to us a bit about how you set up a drama network and the benefits to it, and some top tips for networking with other drama teachers. So over to you, Karen.
Thank you very much. I have a PowerPoint, but it's playing up drastically this morning. So I'm going to talk you through things, and we'll make sure it gets sent out to everybody after the session. Thank you very much for joining us today. The plan that I want to talk through is kind of how we've done Open Drama UK and how you can actually use some of the things we do in order to create your own local networks. Local networks are absolutely a fundamental part of getting real support and real help in your area. It's so good. And what we do at Open Drama is we are all about advancing, improving and benefiting theatre and young people. We currently have 25 local networks across England and Wales, which are run by 31 teachers and theatre practitioners. And in setting that up, that's taken 2 years to build that. And what we've done is we've created a smaller area and then we've built it up from there. So the first thing I want to talk about, and in fact, I'm going to try and let me try and share this with you because I think it will be more helpful. Just bear with me 1 second. So let me click that button. Hopefully, Seb, if you can jump in if this isn't showing. Hopefully, you'll be able to see that.
All good. That's all fine, Emma. Yeah.
Hey, perfect. So
you just hit the hide button for me, Sarah, if that's okay.
Yep. There we go. Perfect. Technology is not my friend today. Brilliant. So hopefully that's now all going to work perfectly. So when we're talking about local networks, this is getting together with teachers who are kind of within travelling distance of you. You can define what local is to you. There is absolutely no kind of need to restrict it to within a certain postcode, within a certain area. If you find you're in a remote location, you can have that as a wide area. If you're in a city, it might be there are 2 or 3 different networks within that city, and you can coordinate and liaise. We're all about getting advice, getting support, giving fresh ideas. This is really important. There's so many times if you look on social media, oh, has anyone got any advice on? Because networks are so important for that. And it will help you build your confidence as a professional as well, especially new teachers, young teachers, early career teachers. You're looking at drama is so huge. The subject content of what we can teach, the topics we can cover, just even discussions on plays will take hours and hours and hours. And that's something that a network can really help you with. You can recommend to each other as well. And not only that, knowing what's going on in your area, if you're in quite a stable position, you get to find out what people do. The education world is actually a very small world. People do begin to know everyone. And you'll find that knowing your local network and who's around you and who's looking for new opportunities can help you with your career as well. It's a really, really positive thing to be a part of. And that's why we set up Open Drama UK as well. So the first thing, there is no point setting up a local network if one already exists. It's a lot of work to try and create something if it's already there, because you're just going to end up competing, and that is not ever helpful. One thing you want to look at is where you're going to find that information. If you have local organisations, and theatres are quite good for this, I know I've put this separately on the list, you can contact national organisations. So we are obviously a networking organisation. That's what we do at Open Drama UK. But you also have subject associations. You have bridge organisations. They are generally based quite in city locations, but not always, but they cover wide areas as well. If you liaise with music departments, music hubs are really a good contact, because a lot of the time music and drama departments get on very well, and they will be able to have the contacts as well. And music hubs have established networks across the entire country, so that can be a good way in. Social media, if you're looking for a group or a hub, Facebook is the place to go, really. There are so many drama groups, some of them relatively small. They've been set up by a teacher in an area, so you can search for, North London Drama Network. I don't know if that exists. I've just thought of that off the top of my head. But also there are massive whole country and international groups as well. There are groups for subjects, there are groups for topics, there are groups for set texts as well. There are groups for all the exam boards. And they're a really good place to start meeting other drama teachers and just finding out where people are, what people are doing, and getting advice as well. If you're like me, moving to a new school in September, ask your predecessor. I have a meeting with the person I'm taking over from next week. And one of my questions is, tell me about the local network. What is their invoice then? Which way I'm going? And just to find out, because that contact is so important. If they know there's something that exists already, getting in there, get them to introduce you to the network as well if you've got one in the area. That's something that is really, really helpful for kind of getting in the door. It's sometimes quite intimidating, especially for people who are quite shy, to kind of just approach people and say, oh, hi, I'm new. Can you let me into the network? Drama teachers are brilliantly wonderful and lovely and will often say yes. In fact, always say yes. I don't know why I often came in there. They always do. But sometimes it can be intimidating as well. So get people to introduce you. There is nothing wrong with doing that. But if you find there isn't actually a network, you can create your own. If you are moving to a new area or you don't really know the area you're teaching in very well, as much as performance tables are quite a controversial topic and not what I want to discuss today, the website where you find the performance tables lists every school in the country, and you can do a postcode search. It's a really helpful tool for finding out what schools are around a specific area. You go on the website, click on the Start Now button, and it asks you to put in either a location or a name of a school, and it will bring up everything by distance. And that includes primary, secondary, state, independent, just every school in your area. It's a really useful one-stop shop to find out who's nearby. And especially if you're in a rural area and thinking of something a bit wider in terms of geography, you might not know what other village schools there are around you. And that's a really helpful starting place. We always find when you are trying to make contact with people, find out their name. It is so much more likely you'll get a response if you've included their name. And with saying that, when you make contact, don't sound too formal. Quite a lot of the time, that whole junk marketing approach, I'm just going to send it with your name in and here's my marketing spiel, will just get deleted. So make it quite personal, make it quite informal, but also professional, obviously. Make sure you introduce yourself and include your key information about what you do. If you're a secondary school teacher, tell them what spec you're teaching. Moderation is an exceptional use of time when you've got a network. If you're able to get together with teachers who teach the same spec, moderation becomes brilliant, especially for one-person departments as well. It's such a good use of a network time to be able to do that. Even if you don't teach the same specifications, you still can moderate across, because the standard of GCSE is very similar across all the specs. It's more wording and semantics that are the things that vary between specifications. Make sure that you do actually tell them what you can offer them if they join the network. Don't say, hey, I'm joining a network, come and join it, because they'll be like, okay. And then it doesn't move forward. You need to have a plan of what you want out of this network if you're setting up your own one. Are you going to use it for moderation? Are you going to use it for sharing teaching ideas? Are you going to use it for support with your professional development? You know, what is the purpose of your meetings? That's really important. And don't forget, you don't have to just have your own setting in a network. Primary teachers, theatres, secondary teachers, post-16, they all work with drama and young people. And a lot of things cross those boundaries as well. And it's really good to set up networks with different perspectives, going back to our list of benefits, getting a different point of view, and having teachers from different contexts can work. You can have one big network meeting with everyone, and then you can create little clusters within your network as well. That works well. So the primary group might have one, the theatre group might have one, your secondary group might have one, where they can do moderation or talking about revising schemes of work, or, you know, there's a whole range of different things that you can do within your network. So the last thing I really want to kind of focus on is some top tips for organising your meetings. This is kind of built on the feedback we receive from our attendees, from our champions. And I've put this as number one because this is really, really important. Snacks are very important at network meetings. You will always be more productive if there is a biscuit involved and a cup of tea, because it just takes away that stress of this is another meeting. This is another, I've got to go and do some more work. Enjoy the network meetings. You're talking with people who are like-minded, people who have your area of knowledge, especially in a one-person department. It can be really difficult to really have a good conversation about play texts when you have to go to the other side of the school, meet your English team, see how they are. It gives you a really good opportunity. Make sure you enjoy it. Make sure you ask your school. This is something that we currently find can be challenging. Sometimes if your school aren't aware you've got visitors coming in or plan to have visitors coming in, they may not be as supportive as they could be. If you go and just talk to them in advance, very rarely is it a problem. And usually only challenges come up if there is other bookings in. That's normally where there's problems. But make sure you do go and ask. That's one of the things that often gets missed off the list. If you are friends with your IT department, your life will be made so much more simple. They can create email distribution lists. Sometimes they find that managing them can be a little bit of work. Some might tell you they don't want to, which is absolutely fine. But if you're looking for a very strong argument for an email distribution list to external email addresses, GDPR is the answer. It makes it completely compliant and will save you a mountain of time. You don't have to type in everyone's email address. You just type in Drama Network and it will send it to everybody. And also it means you won't forget anyone off the list accidentally either. So it does make a massive difference to your time, your administration, and it's definitely worth doing. Sharing resources is really important, and you want that to be done really quickly and really easily. Create somewhere where there's an online folder. This could be something like in your Teams, it could be in a little mini Facebook group, it could be a Google Drive. There are so many different places that you can do it. And then make sure you have a focus to each meeting. Turning up to a network meeting where you're just going to network becomes a bit like well, what was the point of that meeting? And it will kind of damage your reputation of your network. It's so important to have a point to what you're doing. And the last thing, drama teachers love to chat, love to talk, love to catch up. Do some social time within your meeting. Ask people to arrive for 3:45 for a 4 o'clock start. Give them 15 minutes to make a cup of tea and have a catch up with people. Have a finish at 4:15, 5 o'clock, whatever time, but plan to leave 15-20 minutes after that, because that really does build those professional and those personal relationships with people in your local area. The only last thing to say is that if anyone has any questions, please do feel free to email across to me. That's my email address directly. If you take off the e-stop, that's our main email address as well. And I am going to jump off of this, come back to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hopefully that will work.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Karen. I think it's another one of those things where hopefully some of the people watching today are teachers who've maybe started more recently than us. And I think, again, it's that thing you forget when you've been doing it a long time, how important those networks are. And, you know, we've all done it and we've built them over time. But I think that especially with the social media thing and the Facebook and all these things now that we have, I think people would be silly if they didn't take advantage of it. And obviously biscuits are very important as well.
They are, definitely. It's the best way to make new friends and to meet people.
I think the moderation is huge. I think that is so difficult to do. If you're a department on your own and there's only one of you and you're stuck in somewhere rural and you don't know, and I think you are right about being shy, even though most drama teachers are quite confident people usually. I think there can be a nervousness of, having to phone a school that you've never spoke to, or a head teacher, for example, or, people just don't want to do it. And I think you've got to get over that and push yourself and realise that schools are busy places and you're not always going to get that call back straight away, are you? So,
And also, like when you're phoning, if you find actually you don't get that call back, send a follow-up email. That's really good as well. Most schools have that listed on their website, so it's usually
I think you're right about doing a bit of research yourself. I think that is, it may seem a funny thing to say, but I think if you spend a bit of time looking at the postcode, looking at the local schools, go out a bit further as you in the county, for example, get a few names and numbers and emails, and slowly but surely you'll you might make one link that saves you a lot of time and stress. And it's just a support, isn't it? It's just being able to swap ideas, or if you get stuck, just have someone else. So great, thanks a lot. And hopefully obviously people can use Open Drama and obviously Lucy's We Teach Drama and all these brilliant companies and organizations set up to help us all as a community of drama teachers.
Exactly. And thank you very much for letting us join you today.
You're welcome. It was a really clear PowerPoint. I think you set out a really clear plan there for people who are worrying what to do. And like we say, we'll upload all the slides to Big Marker when this finishes, and you can have a look at Karen's going to obviously forward that to me, and we'll get that out. All right. Thanks very much. Have a great day.
Thank you much. You too.
Yeah. See you, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was Karen Latto there from Open Drama, giving us some tips on setting up a network and how to do that successfully and how to run a network meeting. I cannot stress how much I agree with what Karen has said. I think we are a subject which is sometimes tricky to get that support. We're not a big core subject. There's not as many of us out there. So yeah, let's all work together with that. So next up, we have the wonderful Theatre Beard. And before Theatre Beard comes in, we've just got one more word from our sponsors from Pupil Progress.
Each tracker will calculate the grade exactly as the exam board calculates the grade, so you can see exactly what progress is being made by each individual student. All grades are calculated through the very latest grade boundaries that can be selected by you and also adjusted by you. Now, of course, you're going to want to be able to add your own tests. You can add your own end of topic assessments where you can even tag those questions against specific topic areas so you can get a deeper analysis of what's happening across your curriculum delivery. When you add data to this test that's been added, you will see that it feeds directly through into the topic summary area. This system gives you a complete overview of what's happening across every class and your entire cohort, not to mention being able to produce individual student reports. I've used these reports as a teacher myself, and they provide the greatest level of detail. They also have an emotional impact on the students, being able to improve motivation and the ownership of their qualification they're taking. Every tracking system has an overall summary area to show you exactly how many marks students are away and how they're performing against their minimum target grade. Because you no longer now have to use spreadsheets, the analysis is live. So every single department area will have access to what's happening across the class as a graphic and a visual, and also the analysis to be able to show you what's happening across each of the subgroups and also the breakdown of grade performance. For those of you who have leadership responsibility at the school, we do have an overview of every single subject area if the school was to use this at a whole school level. Not only that, we also have a complete breakdown of the grade analysis for Key Stage 4, which calculates the A8, the P8 for each student, and therefore the overall P8 and profile of the school.
If you are looking to trial Pupil Progress, all you need to do is visit pupilprogress.com, click on the Create Account icon, and you'll be able to access it through a simple registration process.
Okay, thank you. Thank you there to Pupil Progress for giving us that information. It looks like a certainly very powerful tool indeed. So without further ado, we're going to be now introducing our next guest. Here he is, Richard, otherwise known as AKA Theatre Beard. Not just because he's got a beard. I think there's more to it than that, isn't there, Richard?
There is, yeah. So that's just the username that I have on YouTube. And because YouTube is a visual medium, I thought I would have a username that's about the visual. So nice. I've got a beard. I know stuff about theatre. And so that's how it kind of came about.
Absolute genius that was. Yeah, great. Okay, well, Richard, if you don't know, is works at one of the UK's only residential art centres left, and so obviously may talk a bit about that. But obviously, Richard's going to talk about the work that he does, how he can use his YouTube videos with your students. So I'm going to pass over to you, Richard. Take it away.
Fantastic. So I just thought I would give a brief introduction to myself and the various bits of work that I do all over the place. So my name is Richard. I have a bachelor's degree in English with theatre and performance, and then I went on to do a master's degree in drama and performance. I've never actually studied it at GCSE or A-level myself, because many moons ago when I was back in school, and the school I went to, it was the kind of subject that people didn't take very seriously, so I was kind of steered away from it. But I've taken part in lots of kind of youth theatres and stuff like that as a child, but now obviously I'm the person leading those workshops. I used to work at a youth theatre for 7 years, and I have been a freelance director for about 16 years as well. Everything from one-person shows, solo performances, right the way through to full-scale musicals with casts of about 40 people. So it's been very, very varied. But my main job is working at the UK's only dedicated residential arts centre, and that's at Ingestry Hall in Staffordshire. I say dedicated because there are pop-up residentials that happen, but it's the sole purpose of the building. It's the former home of the Earl of Shrewsbury, who used to live at Alton Towers, but now for the past 60 years, it's run by Sandwell Council, even though it's in Staffordshire. It's a dedicated residential arts centre. So students come along and stay with us for a week at a time, sometimes a 2-night stay, and they have workshops in visual art, music, sometimes film and animation, dance and drama. And obviously that's what I'm here to talk about. So I thought that I would talk about some of my experiences in that environment, some of the issues I encounter with working with young people when they're devising, because all we do there is devise work, and hopefully provide you with some solutions if you've come up with those same issues as well. If you want to find out more about the Residential Arts Centre, it's ingestryarts.org. Sorry, ingestryarts.org.uk. That's INGESTRE arts.org.uk. And students get to do around about a term's worth of work within a week, depending on how much time you have in school. And so it's really valuable time for them to come out. And I think one of the things that I admire in all people who work in schools is the fact that when I'm at work, I have a full day for 5 days with my students, and I don't know how I would be able to get my head around doing sessional work. So I take my hat off to you that when you only see them once or twice a week. So some of the issues that I encounter regularly are volume. So if you have any issues with volume with your students, I've got a few little tips and tricks for you to put into practice with them. First of all, usually they are speaking quite quietly, mainly because in scenes, if they're quite close together, they have a tendency to just speak at a volume that they can hear each other, and they're not really considering the fact that there's an audience. So one of the strategies I use is actually to expand that scene and put our actors at a physical distance, and therefore they're in a position where they're forced to use their voice a lot more. And obviously if their other actors can't hear them, they're not going to be able to use those lines. And it's about them really pushing their voice through the space rather than just being louder. I find very often students are told to just speak louder or I can't hear you. And sometimes that's not particularly helpful. So just increasing that space between them forces them to actually use their voice, because I find that during their break times, when they're all out on the field, they're shouting their heads off and they all have big voices. They're just not using them. After they've rehearsed that scene at a distance, we'll bring them back together again to make sure that they remember that physical sensation of pushing their voice more and keeping that volume for their scene. Other ones, maybe even outside of a scene, you can do is one I call the washing line. And I ask students if they're aware of those retractable washing lines that are in a big reel and you pull them out. I get them to imagine that they have one of those attached to the end of their nose, and then they pull that washing line and they can see the other end attached to the back wall. And then it's about thinking and picturing their words as washing that slides along that line and smashes into the back wall. So again, it's just getting them thinking about the force behind their voice rather than just being loud. So it's about sending their voices across the room. And the great thing about it being retractable is it can adapt to any space that you're in. So if you are in a huge auditorium, obviously that washing line is going to be stretching even further. Or if you're in a small studio space, it doesn't need to go that far. So it's about them having that perspective of how much force they're going to need to use. The other thing that you can use is a beanbag or something soft that students can actually throw, because it's really hard to be quiet when your body is doing something physically exerting. So oftentimes I'll put students at opposite ends of the room and they'll deliver their dialogue whilst throwing a beanbag across the space. And so they're connecting that sense of force and volume in order to send it further across the room. And that's really the thing that I'm trying to get them to connect with, is this idea of sending their voice rather than a sense of volume. It's just about a force behind it. And sometimes that physical beanbag can be really helpful in getting them to visualize their voice going across the space. One final thing for volume is the idea of muscularity. And so I have students think about all the muscles that are in their cheeks, in their tongue, in their lips, because our voices are a product of our bodies. So I'll have them think about all of the muscles that are in their face while they're speaking. And this can often help with the volume, because very often students won't really move their lips much at all, and it really restricts the volume as well. So having them think about the muscularity of their faces and the muscularity of those words really helps. Next one is about flat dialogue. And I appreciate that some of these tips you're probably very familiar with and probably have your own strategies, but I just thought I would give some just in case you were struggling. So flat dialogue is when students are delivering their lines, but they're letting the words themselves do the work for them. They're not really emoting or anything behind it. What I'll do in that circumstance is I'll actually restrict their dialogue. So instead of actually saying their words, they'll just say blah, 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 blah. And therefore they're forced to think about how their words sound in order to be able to communicate and to tell the story of that scene that they're in. And once they've explored those sounds, they can then put the dialogue back in. The flip side of that is if you have some very vocally expressive students, but they're very rigid and aren't very physical in their performance, then I'll do the opposite. And again, removing their language, but sometimes just as a rehearsal technique, I'll maybe even give them one word. I often have a bag of single words that they'll draw one at random and they'll be in pairs, but each word is almost a sentence in its own right. So it might be a word like please, or don't, or stop, or wait. And then joining with a partner, they'll have to devise a scene and they only have that one word to use and they can only use it once. So they're having to think about really how they can tell a story through their physicality, because they only have to be really economical with their language, because they have this one word and they only get to use it once. And it's just a way of getting them to explore the way that our bodies tell stories without even saying a word, because very often students will be very comfortable with speaking and they'll let the words do the work for them, and they'll kind of forget about their body as a tool and as an instrument. Next one is about finding devising difficult. And this particularly comes up with my work with youth theatres, and it's mainly because they want to do scripted pieces all the time. And I think that students tend to forget that an awful lot of work has gone in to creating this script. And so by doing sections of script, they've already got quite an alive piece, and they get kind of instant gratification and instant results because it's already quite good. So that when we start devising, they're actually doing all of that groundwork that the playwright has done or the dramaturg has done. And so it's getting them to understand those elements of the process as well, because they don't get that instant gratification. They might perform something that isn't necessarily their best work and they compare it to a scripted piece. So I think if you can just make them aware of the processes that a scripted piece has gone through in order to arrive at this finished script, that's why they're getting instant results. And that's why with their devising, they are going to have to do that work as well. And just a devising technique that I use is what I call cubing. And it's to visualize a cube. And on the one surface, you have your subject matter or your question. And you can think about what's on the opposite side of that cube. So you think about the opposite question, or you think about the opposite of that subject. And then you can spin your cube and think about another area that's connected to that first topic, and then think about what the opposite of that is, and then spin it again and think about another topic that's connected to those things and think about what the opposite of that is. So you're really getting a kind of well-rounded 3D thought process rather than just a flat mind mapping of things that are connected to the topic but not connected together. So you can use that cubing technique to really explore a subject in quite some depth. Also, when we're devising, one thing that I do is that I always remind students, and this is at the very start of the process, that rehearsals are there so that we can make mistakes. That's exactly the purpose of rehearsals and of workshops, so that we can go wrong as many times as we like. As very often I find students are fearful of making mistakes. And so it's just providing that security that we should be going wrong, because that's exactly what this time is for, is to make as many mistakes as we possibly can. I also find that students have a tendency, if something doesn't work, they want to just ditch everything. They want to just start from scratch. And then inevitably what happens is I'll have groups of students who then sit with nothing and ponder and are stuck, because they know they don't want to do that thing, but they don't really know what they want to do. And in that circumstance, I try and encourage them to think about one little nugget. It might even just be in a sentence in their original work that they can use to develop and build upon, because it's far easier to create something from a starting point than it is to create something from nothing. And yes, it's just using the work that they have come up with. There might even only be a couple of elements that really work, and then they can flesh those out and build them into something a bit bigger. With students, they often experience nerves, as everybody does. And one way that I ask students to think about their nerves is to spin it. And this is just a technique that I use myself as a performer. And I imagine a wheel inside my stomach. It might be in a different part of different people's bodies, but it's definitely inside my stomach for me. As if I was riding a bike and the wheel's turning this way, that is the direction that I can feel the wheel in my stomach. And I spin it and spin it and spin it until my nerves become excitement, because the physical sensation of nerves is actually physiologically the same as the feeling of excitement. So I will spin my nerves until I'm completely excited about the project that I'm going to do. The comedian Sarah Millican refers to her nerves as the cavalry, and it's the rush of adrenaline that's there to push her into that moment of performance. And I think, again, it's just about an acknowledgement that everybody feels nerves, and that a little bit of nerves is actually really good, because it's going to drive your performance forwards, and we don't need to be fearful of nerves. Obviously, when nerves get out of control, that's when our performances can shut down. So it's about just spinning and spinning and spinning it and turning it into excitement. One other thing that I wanted to say is that to encourage you to take your students to fringe theatre performances, because one of the struggles I found, particularly again with the youth theatre more so than students that I encounter in the residential arts centre, is that very often they'll have seen things like a pantomime. It might have been their very first ever theatre experience. They might have seen a Shakespeare production, and they might have seen a West End musical. And those types of theatre have very high production values. They've got very elaborate costumes, very intricate lighting plots, huge sets, which are really impressive. And it's really about that kind of spectacle. So then the difficulty I find when I'm working in a black box studio with really limited resources is that students often will ask what they're going to be wearing. It's sometimes the first question. And obviously we don't have those £1 million budgets to be able to put on a huge spectacle. So if you can, try and take them to fringe theatre performances, because that will give them a greater sense of what you can achieve in limited spaces and with limited budgets. And yeah, it's just about them having that reference point, really. So those are all my top tips of issues that I've encountered myself, and hopefully some solutions for you that you might not have heard of already. My next bit is all about the transferable skills of drama. And again, I'm sure you're all very aware of these, but I think increasingly in the education sector, where the creative arts is being squeezed and squeezed and squeezed out, you're having to kind of defend your existence a lot more. Myself within Sandwell actually own 4 education centres, and we're the only one that's arts based. The other 3 are all outdoors, so it's kind of canoeing, abseiling, rock climbing, that kind of thing. And very often as a service we have to represent the idea of risk and challenge across us as a service, and sometimes people can't see the connection. They can see it quite boldly, excuse me, with our outdoor sector, because obviously abseiling or climbing a mountain is quite a challenge, and it's quite an obvious challenge, whereas sometimes within the creative arts it's difficult to see it. But I was really struck by an online video that you might have seen, which was a camera that captured people on top of a diving board. It didn't see them diving, it was the highest board, and you just saw them in this state of nervousness and freezing up and taking deep breaths and convincing themselves to jump off the edge. And in that moment, I realized I'd seen that same physicality in my students prior to a performance. This deep focus, this drawing of breath, this preparation in order to take that leap. And I think sometimes we don't necessarily appreciate the risk that our students take in stepping out onto a stage in front of an audience potentially of their peers. And interestingly, we usually have a cross-service training day. And the moment that all of the outdoors people came to our centre and took part in arts workshops, it was very interesting seeing how many of them were deeply uncomfortable in trying out some dance workshops or trying out a drama workshop, or were really uncomfortable speaking in front of somebody. And so I think they appreciated the value of risk within the creative arts a lot more after that day. Obviously, in terms of transferable skills, there is the skill of public speaking, which happens in so many different sectors, regardless of which job a student might end up in. There's the skill of improvisation, where it comes in really useful in terms of interview situations, or in any particular job where something unpredictable has happened. They're capable of being able to deal with whatever is thrown at them, and using their creativity can come up with solutions. Obviously, there's the skill of confidence, and I see it change on a weekly basis. Even this last week, it was a primary school rather than secondary, but we have a little brief sharing on a Tuesday, and a girl was just in floods of tears after her first performance, just because she was so overwhelmed with her nerves. And yet come Thursday with her final performance, she was probably the loudest one of the group. And inevitably at the end of the week, I'll always have a teacher say, how on earth did you get this child to stand up in front of people and speak? She's so quiet in school. And it's through that process that they've been able to grow in confidence and hopefully take that forward into other areas of their education. And also the skill of perseverance and just keeping at it. We're a tenacious lot of drama teachers. Finally, my YouTube channel, which has obviously been bigged up, I realize I've only got about a minute. I set up Theatre Beard during the third lockdown, really just as a resource for drama teachers. And if you want to check out Theatre Beard on YouTube, there are videos on there about different practitioners. We've got Stanislavski, Brecht, Artaud, about Panto. I interview a pantomime dame as well. And I also did a series called Wordy Wednesdays, which is all about glossaries and terms that we use in the theatre. And it really came out of a place where, when I first started out, I didn't really know some of this terminology, and I just had to kind of figure out what people were talking about, because nobody actually sat me down and went, oh, the treads, we mean the stairs. So check those out, and hopefully you'll be able to use them within your classroom context. And I think that's my time, I believe, as it's 11:30.
It certainly is. Bang on time, Richard. Well done. Listen, you crammed a lot in there. Thank you so much. And I think, like you say, it's tricky because a lot of us do know the concepts you're talking about and the worries, but that doesn't necessarily mean we always have the tips. So I think the stomach turning one was great. I think the cube one is a really good tip. You know, just for those kind of ideas for helping people, because it's, you know, again, devising is tricky. And also, what you were saying about the scripts was also quite interesting, of how I think kids have got it, so they just get lazy because they think it's all there. You know. But no, some really good stuff, and I think doing it in a residential way is a very interesting way of doing it. I've done it that way before, not so much anymore because of budgets and time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was a really powerful way of doing it. like that. So definitely check out Richard's Theatre Beard YouTube account. Thanks for those great tips. Obviously, we'll upload this afterwards, Richard, so people who missed it will be able to check those tips out again. Don't forget, so thanks to Richard, don't forget the selfie competition is still running till 12 o'clock. We've had a few brilliant entries so far. Get yourself a selfie of you listening in, and there will be some stickers coming your way from our next sponsor, Teachers Love Stationery. So, hi Sabrina. So you're going to tell us a bit more about the wonderful Teachers Love Stationery sets, which you can get, which I'm just showing off my one here.
Oh, glad it arrived on time.
And some lovely highlighters as well. So over to you, Sabrina.
Thank you, Seb. Okay, so my name's Sabrina. I'm the co-founder and co-owner of Teachers Love Stationery, along with my husband, Ben. And the reason we started up Teachers Love Stationery Club is because we subscribe to boxes ourselves already, and it's a bit like getting a little present for yourself through the post. So one of the things I subscribe to is a snack box, and we also jointly subscribe to a gym box, obviously an essential for teachers. And because I love my stationery and I love using it in the classroom, I thought, well, I'll see what's out there in terms of stationery boxes or what might be good for teachers to use. And there didn't really seem to be anything out there that actually appealed to me as a teacher. The stuff in the boxes there was quite a few items, and also they were a bit too nice to use in the classroom. So we decided to start our own stationery subscription box, and I've got a box here to show you today. This is one of our past boxes. It's from March, and first of all, the box itself is approximately A4 sized, and it's thin enough to fit through your door. So you're not going to be home, you're going to be out teaching, we know that. You're not going to want to come home to one of those little cards that say sorry you were out. So first of the month, around the 1st to the 8th of the month, this will drop through your door. You'll come home to a lovely surprise waiting for you. And I'm going to open this for you now and show you the contents of what was in our May box. So each month we have a theme, and the theme for May was sweet treats. So open up your tissue paper. When you first subscribe, you get your own personalized pencil case. And if you subscribe today using our code DRAMAICONS, you'll get £2 off your first box, plus a drama-themed pencil case. As you can see here, normally it has a little star, but for you guys, special today, use DRAMAICONS and you get the tragedy comedy mask version of our pencil case. In the May's Sweet Treat box, we also had some highlighters themed to the colour scheme. A set of 4 erasable retractable pens, which I find really useful in my teacher planner because things always change last minute, so you can colour code things but also erase them when necessary. A pack of macaron themed post-it notes. A useful little macaron book here, which you know, it's always handy to have these little books to write notes and keep information in all in one place. Some macaron washi tape. A packet of stickers, which I find are popular with my pupils as reward stickers. I give them out all the time like confetti, and they love sticking them to the front of their exercise books. We also gave out some refer a friend cards that month, so you can save money by referring your friends. You each get £2 off if your friend subscribes. And of course, we can't do a sweet treats box without including something sugary. So this is a little packet of biscuits we popped in there, whether you want to eat it at break time or whether you want to just keep it in your drawer for an emergency sugar rush, that you've got your sugar. And we often include reward stickers as well. So for this month, we had perfect presentation and you're working so hard. And there's always a little insert listing the contents of your box. So our boxes cost $12.49 per box, and you can subscribe to monthly, bi-monthly or quarterly boxes. So, you know, depending on how frequently you want the stationery, how fast you burn through it, you can choose which subscription you want. And as I mentioned earlier, if you subscribe using the code DRAMAICONS, you'll get £2 off your first box and the special pencil case. I think Seb was showing you earlier the Teach Me Icons drama book. We do a variety of ready-to-buy boxes on our website. One of them is a CPD box specifically for Teach Me Icons. And the pages have been designed in a Cornell notes style. So there's information on how best to use the book to support your CPD and little spaces so you can put your notes. any cues, and then the summary, or maybe key action points that you're going to take away from the CPD in the bottom box. So there's also, as I said, these CPD books on the website, meeting notes books, personalized items such as printable mugs and teacher bags that we specifically designed for teachers to use. You can get printed with your name in glittery on it. So please do check out our website, check out our subscription boxes as well as our shop. Thanks very much. And if you do have any questions, please pop them in the comments box. I'll be more than happy to answer them now.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you so much. I must admit, my daughter was very excited when she saw the stationery, even though she's not a teacher. She has obviously nicked half of it already.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
We do tend to find that from some of our members. So we started up Students Love Stationery Club too. So the boxes for them is pretty much the same things, but a few things different, so that there's no.
Send her to that. I think I'll have to sign her up for that. I love the Cornell notes as well. Great to see that being used. So yeah, great. Thank you very much, Sabrina, and we'll see you again.
Thanks for having me, Seb. Cheers. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks to our sponsors there. Really, really good. It's a great idea. I think gets something nice in the post regularly. So we've just got one final speaker today, who is Sharon, who is I got in touch with Sharon through Twitter at Sharon Drama. We've got one final speaker today, who Key Stage 5 expert, because she works in a sixth form college in Nottingham and deals with a lot of obviously A-level teaching issues of drama, BTEC performing arts. She teaches massive faculty involving music and lots of other things. So I'm going to pass over to Sharon. Hopefully there's no echo, but if I pass over to Sharon, she should be able to take it from there. Sharon, are you there? I'm going to pass over to Sharon. Hopefully there's no echo, but if I pass over to Sharon, she should be able to take it from there. Sharon, are you there? I'm going to pass over to Sharon. Hopefully,
I'm here.
There's no echo, but if I pass over to Sharon, she should be able to take it from there. Sharon, are you there?
I am here, yeah.
Sharon, hopefully,
I'm here.
Right, I've literally no idea what's going on there with Sharon. It sounds like we're in some kind of like awful place where
yeah.
Sharon, you're gonna have to. I'm not sure what's happened there, but you're gonna need to re-enter. So I'm just gonna ask you to re-enter the studio. Make sure you enable your camera and microphone when you re-enter. Seb, great event so far.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm really. The guests we've had have been absolutely brilliant. I think they've all. What I was really hoping we get out of today, Tom, was getting some tips that people actual takeaways, because there's nothing worse than CPD or inset, which is just theoretical. So I was really pleased. Every single one so far has given us something we can definitely use.
Yeah, it was good. And what in terms of next events? Seb, next steps, have you got any kind of like thoughts or plans?
Well, I'm definitely gonna. Well, obviously, I think we're going to go for a slightly longer one. We may go either at the end of autumn term or maybe early in the new year, just to give us time to get a really nice big one together. And what I'll be hoping people do after this is that we get some more suggestions on the Twitter about what people actually want to, what they want the help most with. So please get in touch if you've got some ideas, and we'll make sure whether you want to do curriculum or directing or design, whatever.
Yeah, it's probably a good time for me to say as well, if you're watching the recording of this, then we're going to have hopefully a Teach Me Icons event before people go back to school in September, which will be cross subject, just looking at kind of getting back to school basically, and the essentials of getting back to school and hopefully making that work. So we might look at planning, behaviour, and things like that. It'll be cross-subject, cross-domain.
Yeah, just a generic one, yeah?
Yeah. And generic sounds, Seb, generic just sounds bad. Like you're supposed to be a drama teacher. Come on.
No, I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it in a good way. In a kind of, you're going to cover everything. You're going to put a bit of everything in there. I didn't mean generic. That's the.
It's going to be an explosive event covering all the key elements that you need coming back to school. Right, there's the enthusiasm. There's that drama enthusiasm that I'm bringing right now.
Right, here she is. Hello, Sharon.
Hello. So sorry about that. I've had technical meltdowns this morning. I'm back on my phone.
No problem.
So hello, everybody. I'm Sharon McInnes. sometimes known as Sharon Moyer. That was my professional name when I was doing a bit of acting, directing and voice coaching. Also at Shaz Drama on Twitter. The students call me Shaz or Shazza. Clearly I teach in the sixth form. I've never been called Miss in my life. I don't know what I'd do. When the kids first come to me at A level and they start calling me Miss, I'm looking round to see where Miss is. So yeah, I'm an A-level specialist, and I started at Bilborough 20 years ago. I kind of fell into teaching. It wasn't where I thought I was going, but I loved it. I loved working with teenagers. I've never taught in a school. I've never taught GCSE, so I bow to the expertise of those GCSE teachers, and I'm very grateful for the grounding that those students have when they come to me at A-level. When I first started at Bilborough, it was a relatively small department. We had one group of drama and one group of performing arts A-level, as it was then. And when we moved into a new building, and I started doing that networking thing, I got in touch with all of the local schools, all of the local drama societies, and just worked my bottom off to recruit students onto the courses. And then we brought on A-level dance, and now I have 4 groups at year 12 and 4 groups in year 13 of drama. We also have BTEC Performing Arts Certificate, and we have the BTEC Performing Arts Diploma. So that's how. So I did a lot of work to grow that department, and it's still staying quite strong. And the networking is massive. So I concur with what Karen said. I do some stuff with Open Drama, and I'm also a core group member of Drama Matters. And we do regular networking events every week. And if you want free CPD, we almost every Thursday have a speaker, and we approach all different levels from, primary right up to A-level. So I tend to do mostly sort of training on A-level. Well, I only can. That's all I know. So my key thing is that transition from A-level, from GCSE to A-level. And how do you pick an exam board? That's always a crazy thing. At the moment, we're with OCR. I've done AQA and I've done EdExcel. A lot of my choices tend to be on the set texts, because devising and performing plays, same thing across the boards, really. So at the moment, we're with ACR because I like the texts. First thing I do is look at the students that I get, because mine come from all over Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire, because we bust them in. So I get inner city kids, and I get kids that have been to private school. I get a real mixture. And some of them haven't even done GCSE drama. So I have to do a big starting point. And that is also about making that transition from GCSE to A-level, because they are slightly different beasts, I think. I think our job at A-level is to get them ready to go into the industry and to take on further training. And so I kind of take an approach, and I'm going to throw into the mix here. I look at drama as a postmodern art form. So I look at everything that's been done at GCSE, and I start with a 6-week introduction to A-level drama. So I go back over some of the practitioners. A lot of them are dead white men that they do at GCSE. And I try and look at them in a fresh way. So we do all the stuff they've done, and I find out what they know. And then I throw into this mix that nearly everything is a reworking of something else. And I kind of want to get them out of some habits. I want to give them some more grown-up theatre terminology. And I also want them to stop saying things like, oh, it must be Brecht. They've broken the fourth wall. The ancient Greeks were breaking the fourth wall. Shakespeare broke the fourth wall. Brecht can't be pinned on most contemporary theatre. So I really try hard to, just try and get them to look at things in a fresh way. So we revisit all those practitioners, and I do workshops on Brecht, on Artaud. I don't look at him as just this sort of surreal mad guy. I look at ritual, and I look at how he is used in the contemporary theatre today. It's very unusual to go to the theatre and see pure Brecht, pure Stanislavski, pure Arto. You can see frantic assembly, but to see those practitioners in their pure form with the styles that we tend to start teaching them about, the techniques, is very, very unlikely and unusual. Over lockdown, it was great to see some proper Brecht from the Berliner ensemble, and it looks nothing like the stuff that we do, which is Brecht in schools. So I thought that was quite fascinating, and I made some of my students sit through some German stuff. Different opinions on it, but it was exciting. So that's what I do start with the 6-week intro. I give them a glossary of terminology. We teach them. I am very lucky to have a full-time technician, and one of my drama teachers worked in the industry as a lighting technician as well. So we start them off with stage design, stage shapes. We look at how they can be lit. We look at basic costume, etc. So that's another session. I do some very practical workshops on voice. I also really use stuff by Fourth Monkey and a lot of the stuff that they do in their undergraduate course, and try and get the students really thinking on that higher level of how to be in the room. But then I go back to this idea of postmodernism. So I will start with, how do you devise using a practitioner? And what I don't expect to see in the room from them is pure Brecht, pure Arto. They may be the starting point, depending on the set text. Currently, I'm very lucky because we have no censorship in our school. We do all the sort of sweary texts, and we get to look at Berkhoff through East. And I find that great because they've been at school and they've been told they can't swear, and they've been told all sorts of other things. And I start talking about swearing in a grown-up way. And like with all good children, I say, please don't go out of the room swearing. But in this room, we can use the language we want if it's appropriate for theatre. So I use East and I use Berkhoff. And then I look at what Brecht might have done with Berkhoff. And then I throw postmodernism into the mix. This year, I found a really good method, which is actually introducing them to Cold War Steve as an artist, and explaining how, as a postmodern artist, he's taken old stuff and reworked it and made it new to make a political point. So that's my whole approach to the way I teach. And I do it with the set text as well. We look at the intended styles and we look at the appropriate different styles. And we, even with live theatre, when we're talking about live theatre and evaluating it, we'll say things like, don't say it's Brecht, don't say it's Arto. I will always say this is contemporary art, and it has taken influences from several practitioners, and most artists today are using that bricolage of ideas. They aren't just doing one style. So, you know, when we look at Katie Mitchell, who loves Stanislavski and she loves naturalism, but you couldn't describe her work as naturalistic. You could describe her approach to acting as naturalistic, but her style isn't. She falls under that postmodern idea for me anyway. I know postmodernism can be a bit of a, controversial thing, but the term was first used in 1800. I've got a whole set of slides. I have done CPD on this. I think I've done it for Drama Matters, and I've done it for about how postmodernism works and how to use it to teach students. Because my next thing is to then start looking at the set texts. And what I say to the students is, a lot of the set texts we use are quite contemporary. I have done some Shakespeare in the past, but I'm not using any at the moment. I'm mostly using contemporary stuff because it fits in really, really well with the devising. So by the time we have probably 10 devising groups, and with stimulus, I was very interested in our first speaker. I tend to use a lot of photographic exhibitions or art exhibitions. So we go out and we look at the exhibition, we get to talk to the curators, and it gives us a lot of things to research on about the stimulus. So I love using art, and we've already looked at Cold War Steve, and that gives them a good sort of way in looking at how art is put together. And it links to devising, because with devising, again, the starting point could be Stephen Burkoff, but we might also then look at how some of the contemporary companies like Frantic Assembly come out of that Burkoff camp, and the way they use a lot of physical theatre, etc. I tend to do things like linking complicity to Brecht because they're very political. So they get a taster of lots and lots and lots of other postmodern practitioners. And then I do a mini devising project because I want them to think about what they did at GCSE and try and move on from it. What do they want to say? What is their voice? So I'll start them off with a very simple thing. And it sounds a bit like how to devise with a stimulus like a tomato. So we do a 3-week project where they devise something through a colour. And they're all given red, blue, yellow, green, white. And they then make a piece of work in the style of a very contemporary practitioner. This year, we've used Sean Parker, we've used Deviate, we've used Complicity, Jasmine Vardaman. So it could be anybody that's going, and they then have to look at how they can make a piece of work in the style of that practitioner using the colour and doing research into it. And then I teach them about how to, get them to think about what they intend for their audience. One group this year did a bit of a rave, and they did an immersive piece. And we talked at the end about who their intended audience would be. It wouldn't be their granny. It would be other teenagers. They got everybody else in the class up and actually got them doing rave dancing. It was really, really, really quite exciting. So it's about teaching them to become independent learners, thinking about who their audience is, which isn't just great for their portfolios, etc., but it's also really good when they're going to drama school auditions, etc., because they are quite clued up about how you could make work out of anything. So that's kind of where we go. And then, of course, we have the plays to do as well. So every year I change them. I don't have a set load of set texts I go for, because my cohort changes. The kids are different. Some years I can use some really great stuff by Roy Williams. Other years I can't, because most of the students are white. I get very excited when I've got loads of Asian students, because then I can really do some exciting stuff. And that teaches the other kids, so that makes us diverse. I do a bit of Sarah Kane, mostly Crave. We have done Psychosis. Do a lot of Simon Stevens work. And but I pick up new things every year. We've done Tristan and Isolde this year. I've got a really good catalogue of plays, etc. The other thing we encourage our students to do alongside A-level drama is the Trinity Grade 8 acting. It's timetabled, because Trinity can be timetabled because it's funded, it's government funded. And what it does is, I've got a teacher who just teaches acting then. So they have an hour and a half a week acting lesson with a professional actress who is teaching them acting skills ready for the plays. It costs me nothing, it costs college nothing. And that also supports those students that want to go on to train as actors or directors or designers or whatever. It really, really supports that application process. This year, we've taught them a lot of acting through camera. We got 17 distinctions. It's worth half an A-level. So it's a really, really useful bolt-on, and it saves me having to coach students. So something else with the networking, I also do a lot of outside networking, and our students are often in films, and I can highly recommend you have a look at the #NG project. I have put that in the chat. We're just about to start filming the second session, and that's brilliant for students to be to watch, because it's all about gang crime, knife crime, sexting, etc. So it's a really good one for you to show your students, and it's all verbatim stuff. So that's it. I think I'm about done.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, Sharon. Thank you so much. I know you had a few technical troubles there, but some really important points. I think I really love what you said about the Katie Mitchell thing of, you know, getting students to understand that a practitioner is not then, you know, a restrictive thing. It's just a way in, isn't it? And, you know, that idea that people just teach one practitioner, say, this is Katie Mitchell, she does stand stuff, and then that's it, which we know is not true in modern theatre. And I think what was a really good point you made about language, about the language you use, is you said at the beginning you've not taught GCSE, and I think it's interesting. You know, I taught things at Key Stage 3 in a real simplistic way. Let's say physical theatre, you do it really basic. Then GCSE, you might say to them, well, this is more what it's about, and you introduce frantic. And then when you get to A level, it's having to kind of, again, reteach. So I understand where you have to reset a little bit, because well, you can't teach year 7s and 8s the complexity, because they just haven't got that, you know, they can't understand it. They haven't got the, you know, emotional maturity. So I think it is really good that you keep resetting and saying, right, well, you've learnt this, you know, as they get older. So really lovely. Sounds like an amazing school you work at, Sharon, or college, sorry. Sounds amazing.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm happy to do, you know, if anybody wants to have a look at my sort of way of teaching postmodernism, I have got PowerPoint ready.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd really like to see that. Maybe you can send it to me and I can pop it in the resources for people. Certainly some really highbrow cultural access points there for students. I think it'll be really good to see. Thanks for your time, Sharon. Lovely.
Welcome.
Yeah, so great. So a real mixture today, guys, of people. Thank you to all the guests. Obviously, we've had a design aspect to today. We've had an A-level vibe. We've had some devising in there. We've had looked at how directors use verbatim. And obviously, we've looked at network meetings and keeping you in touch, like we are doing today, with other drama specialists. So there's so much, like Richard said, there's so much to our subject. So much complexity, so much background subject knowledge, and we don't always, as teachers, have that specialist knowledge. And this is what it's all about: keeping developing, keeping learning, helping each other out, supporting each other, and developing as professionals and practitioners. So I hope everybody's really enjoyed today. The next one, obviously, there will be a date sent out soon when we decide when that will be. Please let me know through the Twitter what you would like more of next time. Do you want us to focus more on devising, text-based work, practitioners, curriculum? What is it that you guys need? And we will try and get the right people to fit those. Thanks to all our sponsors, Teachers Love Stationery, Pupil Progress, Wellbe, because again, we couldn't do this for free without them. I think that's about it. Oh yeah, last thing to say would be the selfies. So I've had about some 4 or 5 excellent selfies that I've seen today that will definitely be getting a prize sent out to them. So I'll be in touch with you through Twitter to get your details, and we'll send you a pack of lovely drama reward stickers, again, from our sponsors. So I hope everybody's enjoyed it. Keep in touch, keep using the hashtag TMDramaIcons, and we will definitely see everybody again at some point in the next academic year, when hopefully things for drama teachers and all teachers are a little bit more normal. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Bye-bye.